Howdy everyone, it's Sam. Welcome back to Wobble Enjoy Sports. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider to like the content and subscribe to the channel. But if you're a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. Let's get stuck in round 24. Round 24 starts on Thursday night from Bluebet Stadium. It is the top of the table clash. It is arguably the biggest game of the season and a possible grand final preview. Penrith versus Melbourne. And I reckon maybe 18 months ago, you could have said that this is not a rivalry, but I think that it's pretty hard to argue against these days, isn't it? We've got the Penrith Panthers as the favourites. They are sitting at approximately $1.56. The Storm, first place, they are coming into the game as $2.44 outsiders. So for the Penrith Panthers team list, the 1 to 7 is unchanged, but the changes come in the forward pack. Liam Martin and Scott Sorensen are out due to a couple of different factors. Therefore, it is Liam Henry and Mav Gaia that will be starting in the second row this weekend or this Thursday night. Therefore, the interchange looks like Talau, Eisenhuth, Patia, and Jack Cole. So it's unfortunate that both Sorensen and Martin will be out for this game, but the Storm, they're a little bit different. They're still missing Christian Welch, but their 1 through to 7 is unchanged. Their forward pack is where the changes start coming in. So Nelson Asofa-Solomona will start at prop. Eli Katoa returns into the second row. It's pretty much Chris Lewis that is the only change from last weekend. So the Melbourne Storm, man, they've got a huge opportunity knowing that Sorensen and Martin are out. It does bring them closer, doesn't it? And I think at that price range, it is really hard to go past the Melbourne Storm. Both these sides, I think they're just sort of trying to wait it out until finals kick off, and they still want to get the wins, obviously, but they're just sort of reserving themselves a little bit. I mean, Penrith Panthers, they held themselves until about the 70th minute last weekend, and then they absolutely exploded. A really graphic and impressive display inside the final 10 minutes from the Penrith Panthers, final 7 minutes of play from Penrith. I can't go past Panthers. They're the champions, they're at home. Melbourne Storm, I've only ever been really convinced by them 1 or 2 times this season, where you know that Penrith have got that other gear to them. And in saying that though, the Storm did defeat Penrith in round 1 earlier this season, 8 points to 0. This could be a really fiery encounter. I'm going to tip Penrith Panthers 1 to 12, but this should be brutal. Friday night football now, and there are 2 matches, and game number 1 is from 4 Pines Park. Manly versus the Warriors. Sportsbet have Manly $1.17. The Warriors are $5.10 outsiders. Whoa, that is enormous value on the New Zealand Warriors. Going into the team list now for the Manly Seagulls. So Talatau Kola and Tofafoa Sipley have been named on the reserves list, and there's been a couple of changes in the front row. Paseka and Aloye will start. Nathan Brown will come off the bench. Ben Travojevic is in the fold again as well, and that's just about it. Ruben Garrick also, I think he returned last weekend, but Ruben Garrick is in the centres, so that's a little bit more of a deadly looking outfit for Manly, and such is Lehigh Hopewadi's form that Kola, I know he's probably going to return next week, but for him to still be on the reserves instead of just straight in is a massive compliment to Hopewadi, who is impressing more and more every single game he plays. Looking into the New Zealand Warriors outfit now, so CNK, DWZ and Montoya are the back 3. Montoya returns this weekend. Pompey and RTS are the centres. Chanel Harris-Davida and Sean Johnson. are the halves pairing. Great to see Sean Johnson back. Aiden Fanua-Blake, Barnett and Egan are the front row. Niakure, Capewell and Walker the back row. Lusek, Ali, Tavanga and Sifakula, they are the interchange. And keep in mind though that the likes of a Luke Metcalf has been named on the reserves list. There's a sneaky chance of an upset here. There's a real sneaky chance of an upset here, especially if Sean Johnson, goes absolutely hell for leather inside the final 3 games of his career. There's only 3 games left in the Warriors season starting this weekend. I'm going to tip Manly. They are at home. The Warriors aren't traditionally a very good team at Four Pines Park as well. They've been known to give up quite a number of points on some occasions over the years. I'm going to go Manly to win this game 1-12. I think this might be a little bit closer than what the bookies have got at the moment, with the Warriors at $5.10. The main game on Friday night is from Allianz Stadium, Easts versus Parramatta. Roosters are $1.14, the Eels are $5.75. The Roosters are coming off the bye. As for the Parramatta Eels, the only change that comes for them is that Kelma Tuolangi returns after coming off from an injury. Mike Acevo has also been named on the reserves list for Parramatta Eels. They're a good half a football team at the moment, the Parramatta Eels. They really are. But I can't go past the Sydney Roosters. They're fresh off a bye, and their finals campaign really kicks off this weekend. Sorry, I'm going to tip the Roosters 13+. Super Saturday now, and there are 3 matches, and game number 1 is from Salter Oval in Bundaberg. Canterbury Bankstown versus the Dolphins. The Bulldogs are $1.48. The Dolphins are $2.66. And for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, there is one inclusion. Jamin Salmon returns. He's coming off the bench in jersey 17. And then for the Dolphins now, Mark Nichols is out. And therefore, the likes of a Lachlan Hubner comes in off the bench in jersey number 15. These 2 sides did meet at Salter Oval last year, and it was the Bulldogs who got the upset victory that time. So they won't fear playing the Dolphins. They won't care that they've taken a home game to Queensland against a Queensland side. The Dolphins though, I am starting to I'm really starting to get nervous about their top 8 credentials at the moment. They still have the upper hand by having the best for and against of any of the teams that sit from 7th down to about 10th or so. Whereas the Bulldogs, they're playing finals footy. They're a chance still of playing top 4, and they were very impressive. They got a lucky intercept, and then they just carried that momentum all the way through against the Dragons last weekend. I'm going to tip the Bulldogs in this game 1-12. I think it's going to be a thriller. This is not last chance for the Dolphins, but considering their next few weeks against some even tougher opposition or more trickier opposition, I'm going to go the Bulldogs in this one, but it'll be extremely close. The second game on Super Saturday, is such a crucial game for both of these clubs. Cowboys versus Raiders up at Townsville, North Queensland, $1.47. The Raiders are $2.70. Just quietly, that is a little bit big on the Canberra Raiders. Going into the North Queensland Cowboys now, there is a change in the back line. Townsend has been dropped. Jake Clifford, the big red dog, is back in at the halfback slot. And then in the forward pack, Finafuiaki will be starting because Jeremiah Nene suffered a concussion last weekend against Brisbane. And then the interchange now reads Edwards, McKaylee, Jackson Purdue in 16, and then Griffin Neem as well. Tom Chester has been named as 18th man as well. Meanwhile, for the Raiders, this team lineup scares me. This game scares the crap out of me. And these games, I've been saying it ever since I started talking on YouTube, these games 8 times out of 10 are thrillers, are absolutely wild encounters. The Raiders team lineup looks like Weeks, Chris and Savage in the back 3, Timoko and Strange in the centres. Ethan Strange in the centres, that's what scares the absolute bejesus out of me right now. The halves pairing is Adam Cook and Jamal Fogarty. The forward pack, Papali'i, Starling and Tarpany. The back row, Young, Whitehead and Smithies. The interchange is Levi, Gula, Mariota and Simi Sasangi. Now these two sides did meet back in early June down in Canberra, and the Cowboys got a convincing enough victory against the Canberra Raiders. I think the Cowboys, hoping that the weather's going to be nice to us this Saturday, they should have too many points for the Raiders, even though Jamal Fogarty again is a massive difference. And Scott Drinkwater, he's had a bit of trouble under the kicking game of Adam Reynolds. Well, Jamal Fogarty's coming to Townsville, so get prepared for a huge bomb from Jamal Fogarty this weekend. And Ethan Strange, I think that means Mr. Strange will be lining up against Viliami Vailea. So nothing against Vailea, it's just that Strange, he's going to put on some footwork on Vailea this weekend, so maybe, well not maybe, definitely keep an eye out for that. So Strange versus Vailea this weekend, and then obviously on the other side, Timoko versus Valentine Holmes on Saturday afternoon. We're technically 6th with our bye yet to come, our competition 2 points yet to come from the bye. So yeah, got to win this weekend to make sure that we get a home final in a month's time. Go on Cowboys. The last game on Super Saturday is from Campbelltown Stadium, the Tigers versus South Sydney. Tigers are $2.77, South Sydney, they are $1.45. And going into the team list now for the West Tigers, we've got Luke Lalali'i, Solomona Fatape, Dewey and Staines there in the back line, with Galvin, Caesar and Buller rounding it out. Then the forward pack now, Seifert, Samuel Afinu and Isaiah Papali'i. They are the back row, and the interchange reads De Silva, Finu and Pole and Alex Twal. Then we go into the South Sydney Rabbitohs now, and their back line looks unchanged. Their forward pack, Talis Duncan will start now in the second row, and the interchange is Mamazulas, Host, Burgess and Shaq Mitchell. These two sides met only a month ago out at Gosford, and the Tigers gave them a huge run for their money. Like another couple of other content creators have said, this is the biggest opportunity for the Tigers to get level with the Parramatta Eels, and in trying to avoid the wooden spoon for a third straight season. I think they're very capable of doing it. I think this is going to be exactly the same as their previous meeting in Gosford a month ago. I think the scoreline was 42-26 or something of that nature. I think the Tigers are going to get close, but Rabbitohs, they have like a really good, solid, dedicated effort every 20 minutes or so over the past month. They were in that game for just a bit against the Melbourne Storm. I'm going to say that they win the South Sydney Rabbitohs, but I think Tigers are going to give them a hell of a fright this weekend. Into the Sunday games, and game number 1 is from Wynn Stadium in Wollongong, the Dragons versus the Gold Coast Titans. Dragons $1.51, the Titans are $2.58. There are big changes, there are massive changes for the Dragons primarily, but this is, I think the Titans season is done, but for the Dragons this is huge. This is a huge game for them because they are dealing with a worse for and against in comparison to the Dolphins, who are just up above them. The Newcastle Knights, they're hanging around as well. We'll go into the Dragons now. So Sloan, Lomax, Tuipulotu, the back three, and the Fingai brothers, the twins, they are the centres this weekend. Flanagan and Hunt, they're still the halves. Flanagan has been named. Judiciary is happening tonight. I don't think he is going to get off. I think that evidence is just a bit too damning for him. So therefore, you'd reckon Jack Bird, who's been named in the 17, will probably fill in at in the 5/8 position. And looking at the reserves list now, Marshke hasn't even been named on the reserves list, so that's why I think maybe it will be Jack Bird that fills into the 5/8 slot. Going into the interchange, the Couchman twins and Blake Laurie, they round out the interchange as well. And then for the Gold Coast Titans, AJ Brimson will be coming off the bench. Brian Kelly comes back to play in his centre position, and then Moeti Fotuaika is out due to suspension, and Jolliffe will be starting in jersey number 8. And Beau Fermor has been named on the reserves list as well. I'm going to tip the Dragons here. There's just way too much to play for. But now that the shackles are really off, or what have you, they're not playing finals this year, the Titans. So there will be a carefree factor in their nature of play for the remainder of the season. So that's what makes them really dangerous against the Dragons. But the Dragons did belt them in round 1. Maybe there's revenge on the mind of the Titans, or maybe that brings more confidence into the Dragons game this Sunday against the Titans. And I think they'll win in a thriller, 1-12, Dragons. And the final game of round 24 is from Shark Park, Cronulla versus Newcastle. Cronulla $1.37, Newcastle $3.14, and the Sharks could not have been any more impressive last weekend against the Titans. I know the Gold Coast didn't offer up much at all, but the way the Sharks played last weekend was as good as we've seen from them since the early portions of this year. That was a really, really good performance from them. Let's go into the team list now. So Kennedy, Katoa and Stone Street remain the back 3, with Ramian and Iro as the centres. Atkinson and Brayley remain the halves. The forward pack, Rudolph, McInnes and Kofusi. Nicola, Talakai and Williams the back row. Beryl, Burns, Hunt and Hazelton. Then for the Newcastle Knights, KP, Sharp and Marzu. Gagai and Lucas are the centres, and Gamble and Crossland are the halves pairing. Saifidi, Thompson and Brayley are the front row. Frizzell, Kai Pierce-Paul and Adam Elliott the back row. And then the interchange reads Cogger, Croker, Hetherington and Brodie Jones. I feel like the Knights are going to really give them a run for their money. I know the Sharks are they were seriously impressive last weekend, and they should be too good. Just got this feeling about the Knights lining up against the Sharks this weekend. The way that they play, the Knights might be their way in. I think they've got a certain style of play that might just disrupt the Sharks and make them just a little bit concerned. But I'm going to tip the Sharkies this weekend, 1-12. Yo, thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the footy this weekend. Hope your team wins, except for the Canberra Raiders. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you. Take care. Adios.